Here's something almost nobody tells you about Australia. Right now, over 2/3 of all Australians are crammed into just a handful of crowded cities, fighting for parking, lining up for coffee, and paying a fortune to live shoulder to shoulder with strangers. But here's the part that'll shock you. In some Australian towns, you could walk for an entire hour on a beach and never see another human being. No crowds, no traffic, no noise. Just empty, jaw-dropping beauty that most people don't even know exists. One of the towns on this list has fewer than 600 residents. Another is so extreme, its people actually live underground to escape the heat. So if city life is quietly draining you, stay until the end, because number 1 is so surreal, you won't believe it's a real place people call home. Let's count down 12 of the best crowd-free towns in Australia. Number 12, Coober Pedy, South Australia. And now for the grand finale. The most surreal, jaw-dropping, downright unbelievable place on this entire list. Because if you truly want to escape the crowds, I mean really escape them, it does not get more extreme than this. Deep in the scorched heart of the South Australian outback lies Coober Pedy, the opal mining capital of the world. And here's the part that genuinely stops people in their tracks. This town is so brutally, relentlessly hot that most of the people who live here live underground. Yes, you heard that right. To escape the punishing desert heat, residents have carved their homes straight into the earth. And not just houses. There are underground churches, hotels, shops, even bars, all dug into the rock. Down there, the temperature stays cool and steady all year round, no matter how savage the sun gets above. It is one of the most extraordinary, otherworldly places you can possibly live anywhere on planet Earth. A true frontier town, surrounded by hundreds of kilometers of empty, red, Mars-like desert in every direction. If your goal is to leave the crowds behind, there is nowhere on this list more dramatic. Out here, solitude isn't a feature, it's a way of life. But let's be real, because this one isn't for the faint-hearted. Coober Pedy sits at the extreme end of the spectrum. Remote, blisteringly hot, and absolutely not for everyone. And that, honestly, is the entire point. So here's your final practical tip, and it applies to this whole list. The deeper the quiet you crave, the more convenience you trade away. So, be brutally honest with yourself. Ask, how much solitude do I actually want? Answer that truthfully before you take a leap this big. 12 incredible crowd-free towns. And one big question left. Which one is calling your name? Number 11, Bellingen, New South Wales. Now here's a town that offers something you simply can't put a price on. And it's the one thing most quiet places are actually missing. Just inland from the Coffs Coast in New South Wales sits Bellingen, a creative bohemian hinterland village of around 3,900 people. And this place is special because while so many small towns are peaceful but a little empty, Bellingen pulses with soul. This is where artists, musicians, writers, and tree changers have come together to build one of the most genuinely characterful little communities in the entire country. Close your eyes and picture it. Boutique art galleries tucked along the main street. Cozy riverside, cafes where you can sit for hours. Lush, rolling green valleys wrapping the whole town in calm. And running through all of it, a deep, unmistakable sense of community spirit. Here, creativity, nature, and human connection don't just coexist, they feed off one another. The result is a town that's quiet, but never lonely. Peaceful, but bursting with life and personality. This is the kind of place where people actually know each other, where the markets are an event, where you're not just a stranger who moved in, you become part of something. And honestly, that's incredibly rare to find. But that very strength comes with an important lesson. In a town like Bellingen, its superpower is the community, which means the secret to truly thriving here isn't the house you buy or the view you get. It's integration. So here's your practical tip. When you move somewhere this tight-knit, show up. Go to the local markets, join a class or a group, volunteer, say yes to invitations. The quiet life is wonderful. But in a small town, belonging is what transforms a house into a home. Quiet, creative, and full of heart. But our final stop, it's the most surreal, jaw-dropping place on this entire list. Number 10. Dunsborough, Western Australia. Let's head back to Western Australia one more time, to the world-famous Margaret River region and a relaxed little seaside town that perfectly blends beach life with wine country. Dunsborough is a coastal town of around 6,400 permanent residents, sitting right on the calm, protected shores of beautiful Geograph Bay. And that word, protected, is the magic here. Because the bay is so sheltered, the water is calm, clear, and genuinely swimmable, almost like a giant natural pool. No crashing surf, no dangerous rips, just gentle, glassy water lapping at white sand. Now picture the lifestyle that surrounds it. Excellent cafes, a laid-back, easygoing vibe, and the legendary wineries of Margaret River sitting right on your doorstep, some of the best in the entire country. For most of the year, Dunsborough feels less like a tourist hotspot and more like a peaceful beachfront suburb where life just slows down. You swim in the morning, grab a great coffee, taste world-class wine in the afternoon, and watch the sun set over the bay. That's the rhythm here, but here's the catch, and by now, you can probably see the pattern forming. In summer, Dunsborough's population can triple. The quiet streets fill up, the beaches get busy, and that sleepy seaside calm gets a serious holiday season jolt. So here's your practical tip, and it's the golden rule for nearly every beautiful coastal town on this list. The crowd-free promise is a winter and shoulder season reality. The empty beaches and quiet cafes you fall in love with in July look very different in January. So before you commit, experience both versions of the town and make absolutely sure you love the quiet one the most. That's the version you'll be living in for most of the year. Calm bays and world-class wine. But our next stop has something money can't buy. A real creative community soul. Number 9. Strahan, Tasmania. Alright, if you thought the towns so far were quiet, get ready because we're about to go seriously remote. Strahan, on the wild west coast of Tasmania, has just around 600 residents, and it sits as the lonely gateway to one of the last great untouched wilderness areas left on the entire planet. This isn't quiet suburb quiet. This is edge of the known world quiet. Close your eyes and picture it. Misty harbours at dawn, ancient Huon pine forests, some of the oldest living trees on Earth, the untamed, mysterious Gordon River winding through dense, silent rainforest where the wilderness stretches further than the eye can see. This is raw, wild, breathtaking nature on a scale most people will never witness in their lives. But let me be honest with you, Strahan is not for everyone. This is a place for people who don't just tolerate solitude, they genuinely crave it. People who find peace in isolation, not loneliness. As one traveler beautifully put it, sometimes exploring a forgotten corner of your own country unearths more wonder than flying halfway across the world. And Strahan is exactly that kind of hidden, soul-stirring corner. Now here's the reality check, because remote living comes with real trade-offs. Services out here are limited, fewer shops, longer drives for anything specialized, especially healthcare. When you live this far out, a quick trip to a specialist can mean hours on the road. So here's your practical tip. Be brutally honest with yourself about logistics. Strahan rewards the genuinely self-sufficient. Stock up, plan ahead, keep a well-stocked pantry and a reliable car. And most importantly, embrace the isolation as a feature, not a flaw. Because for the right person, that distance from the world is the whole point. A town on the edge of the wilderness. But next, we're heading back to the coast, to a relaxed seaside gem in wine country. Number 8. Port Douglas, Queensland. Now let's swap the cool inland hills for tropical heat, swaying palms, and turquoise seas, way up in far north Queensland. Port Douglas has a permanent population of fewer than 4,000 people. Tiny, but here's what makes it almost unbelievable. This little town is your front door gateway to not one, but two World Heritage wonders. On one side, the legendary Great Barrier Reef. On the other, the ancient, jaw-dropping Daintree rainforest, a forest so old it's been around for 180 million years. Stop and imagine what that means for daily life. Your average Saturday plan isn't mow the lawn, it's do I snorkel a living coral reef today, or hike through a prehistoric rainforest? That's not a holiday brochure. For the people lucky enough to live here, that's just the weekend. And the feeling of the place is something locals can't stop talking about. They describe a unique, far north Queensland rhythm. Slower, warmer, friendlier, and worlds away from the stress and rush of city life. Time genuinely seems to move differently up here. Palm trees sway, the air is thick and warm, and nobody's in a hurry. It's the kind of relaxed that you can actually feel in your shoulders. But here's the catch you need to know about. Port Douglas has a strong tourist season, and during the peak months, that small population can nearly double. The quiet streets fill up, prices climb, and the laid-back vibe gets a little busier. So here's your practical tip. Time it smart. Plan your move and your housing hunt for the off-season during the wetter summer months. That's when the crowds thin out, rentals get cheaper, and the competition practically disappears. You'll get the real, peaceful Port Douglas at the best possible price. Two World Heritage wonders on your doorstep. But next, we're going seriously remote to one of the wildest, loneliest corners of the country. Number 7. Mudgee, New South Wales. Here's the thing most people get wrong about escaping the crowds. They assume you have to live by the sea. But some of Australia's best-kept secrets are tucked far inland. Meet Mudgee in central New South Wales, a wine country town of around 11,500 people that's been named, again and again, one of the best places to live in the entire state. And once you spend a day here, you'll understand exactly why. Picture this. Over 100 wineries scattered across rolling green hills, a genuinely world-class food scene that punches way above a town this size. Gorgeous heritage streetscapes full of charm and history. And here's the part that quietly matters more than anything. Access to quality medical services. Trust me, in regional Australia, a real hospital and proper doctors are a far rarer luxury than they sound. Mudgee is that sweet spot. Big enough to have everything you actually need, small enough that you'll never fight for a parking spot. But here's what really makes Mudgee clever. Yes, it welcomes over 500,000 visitors a year, but here's the secret. They come for the events and the weekends, and then they leave. The everyday Monday morning version of Mudgee. It's calm, quiet, and completely livable. You get all the buzz of great food and wine without the permanent crush of a tourist town. So here's your practical tip, and it's an important one, especially as you get older or move with family. Don't choose a town on charm alone. Prioritize places like Mudgee that have a real hospital and reliable GPs. A pretty village is wonderful until you need urgent care and the nearest doctor is 2 hours away. Healthcare access can make or break a tree change. A peaceful wine town with everything you need. But our next stop, it's tropical, surrounded by two World Heritage wonders, and it's pure paradise. Number 6. Denmark, Western Australia. Now we head all the way back to Western Australia's Great Southern region, to a town that somehow crams 3 completely different worlds into one tiny, magical package. Denmark blends wild, windswept beaches, ancient towering forests, and over 20 cool climate wineries, all within a few minutes of each other. Stop and really picture that for a second. You could walk beneath a cathedral of giant ancient trees in the morning, sip an award-winning wine at lunch, and watch the sun melt into a completely empty beach that same evening. That's not a bucket list holiday. For the people who live here, that's just an ordinary day. And the vibe? It's special. Denmark is creative, relaxed, and deeply connected to nature. There's an artistic, easygoing soul to this place that you can feel the moment you arrive. It's the kind of town where visitors come for a quiet weekend and quietly find themselves scrolling through local real estate listings before they've even checked out of their accommodation. It gets under your skin in the best way. But let's be practical, because the dream only works if the living works. Denmark's economy leans heavily on three things: wine, fresh local produce, and tourism. So if you're planning to relocate, those industries are your most natural path to finding work in town. Here's your practical tip though, and it's the one that's quietly changing everything for towns like this. Bring a remote job with you. Reliable internet has made places like Denmark genuinely livable in a way they simply weren't a decade ago. You no longer have to choose between a great career and a peaceful life surrounded by forest and sea. With the right setup, you really can have both: forests, beaches, and wine in one sleepy town. But next, we're proving that crowd-free living isn't only found by the ocean. Number 5. Bright Victoria. Now let's trade the salt air for mountain air, because not every crowd-free escape sits beside the ocean. Tucked deep into the Victorian Alps, Bright is a town of just about 2,600 people, wrapped in mountains, threaded by crystal-clear rivers, and famous for putting on what just might be the best autumn colour show in the entire country. When the leaves turn, the whole town glows in fiery reds and golds. It's the kind of place that makes you stop, breathe, and wonder why you ever lived any other way. And if you love the outdoors, this is paradise. Picture your weekends filled with mountain biking, kayaking, fishing, cycling, even paragliding off the peaks. Throw in some of the best cool climate food and wine in Victoria, and you've got a lifestyle that feels like a permanent holiday. Best of all, those towering mountains act as a natural barrier, keeping the population low, the air clean, and the crowds far, far away. But here's the honest truth, and it's a big one. Bright is so desirable that it's now facing a serious problem: a housing squeeze. Recently, this little town of 2,600 people had over 100 properties for sale, yet almost nothing available to rent. Demand has exploded, and supply simply can't keep up. People want in, and they want in badly. So here's your practical tip. If an alpine town like Bright is calling your name, you have to flip the usual plan on its head. Lock down your housing first, before you commit to a job. In a tiny mountain town, scarcity works differently. A job is replaceable. A roof over your head, when there are only a handful going, is not. A mountain paradise where nature does the crowd control. But our next stop, it blends ancient forests, wild beaches, and world-class wine, all in one tiny town. Number 4. Robe, South Australia. Let's swing over to South Australia's stunning limestone coast, to a town where for half the year you can have entire turquoise bays almost completely to yourself. Robe is a historic fishing port with just around 1,250 permanent residents. That's it. And in the quieter months, that number means something incredible. You can walk the famous coastal trails, stroll the beaches, and watch the waves roll in without bumping into more than a handful of people all day. In winter, this place is gloriously empty, but don't mistake quiet for boring. Robe is steeped in history and character. It was built on lobster and grit, and it shows. Grand old limestone buildings line the streets, giving the whole town a timeless, almost European feel. Add in wild, windswept beaches and dramatic coastal cliffs, and you've got a place that feels both rugged and refined at the same time. Here's something most people never realize though. Robe's population stays small on purpose. There are no high rises, no sprawling mega developments, No concrete jungle creeping up the coastline. The town has deliberately kept itself low density, which means the peace and quiet here isn't just luck. It's protected. That's a rare and powerful thing in a country where so many beautiful coastal towns get bulldozed into resorts. But there is a catch, and it's a big one. In summer, Robe transforms. Holidaymakers pour in, and that sleepy population swells dramatically. So here's your practical tip. Before you buy a single thing, rent for a full year first. Live through the busy, buzzing January and the empty, peaceful July. Because the off-season is the real test. That's when you'll discover whether you truly love the quiet or whether the silence is a little too loud. A protected paradise on the coast. But next, we're trading the ocean for the mountains. And the views are absolutely breathtaking. Number 3. Yamba, New South Wales. Now we head to the north coast of New South Wales, to a town with a secret it somehow managed to keep hidden in plain sight. Yamba is a former fishing village of around 6,400 people. And here's the jaw-dropping part. It was once crowned Australia's #1 town in a major national poll, beating out hundreds of glamorous, famous destinations. And yet, it's still nowhere near as crowded as Byron Bay, sitting just up the highway, choked with tourists and traffic. So how did Yamba pull that off? It stayed true to itself. Picture quiet streets lined with cozy cafes, little boutiques, and art galleries. A string of beaches for every single mood. Surf on one, calm swimming on another, a quiet fishing spot on the next. And running through all of it, a genuinely laid-back rhythm that mass tourism never managed to swallow. This is the rare town that nails the impossible balance. It's lively enough to actually feel alive. There's a community, there's a buzz, there's something to do, but it's small enough that you can still breathe. You'll recognize faces. You'll have a regular cafe. You'll watch the sunrise over the water without fighting for a spot on the sand. But here's the honest truth. Yamba's secret is getting out. It's family friendly, it's stunning, and that means more people are discovering it every year, which is quietly pushing prices up. So here's your practical tip. If Yamba's calling your name, don't just look at the town centre. Search slightly inland or check out the neighbouring villages. You'll often score the exact same beachy, relaxed lifestyle for noticeably less money. A town voted the best in the entire country. That crowds still haven't ruined. But our next stop, it's even smaller, even quieter, and steeped in history. Number 2. Stanley, Tasmania. Now let's shrink things down, way down. Stanley, on the far northwest coast of Tasmania, has a population of just under 600 people. Let that sink in for a second. 600. That's not a town. That's barely a crowd at a suburban football match. If your idea of too busy is spotting a stranger on your morning walk, then Stanley might just be your perfect slice of heaven. And here's what makes it unforgettable. The entire village sits in the shadow of the Nut, a dramatic, flat-topped, extinct volcano that rises straight up out of the sea like something from a fantasy film. You can climb it, walk its rim, and look down over a town that genuinely looks frozen in the 1800s. All heritage cottages, salty sea air, and streets so quiet you can hear the waves from your front porch. Picture your daily life here. No traffic lights, no honking, no rush. Just the cry of seabirds, the smell of the ocean, and a pace of life that the rest of the world forgot decades ago. People don't move to Stanley to keep up with the world. They move here to finally escape it. But here's the catch with a town this tiny. Housing is scarce. With so few homes, the good ones get snapped up fast, and often quietly, before they ever appear on a single website. So here's your practical tip. Don't try to do this one from behind a screen. Visit in person. Talk to the local pub. Chat to the owner of the general store. In towns this small, word of mouth is everything. And you'll often hear about an available cottage long before the rest of the world does. From a sleepy volcanic village to a coastal town that was once voted the best in all of Australia. That's where we're headed next. Number 1. Esperance. Western Australia. Let's start on the wild southern edge of Western Australia, in a town that honestly feels like the edge of the world, in the best possible way. Esperance is home to around 14,000 people, but here's what keeps it so beautifully empty. It's seriously remote. The nearest big city, Perth, is over 700 kilometers away. That's like driving for 8 straight hours just to reach a shopping mall. And that distance, it's exactly why the crowds never come. But what they're missing is staggering. Esperance is quietly known as home to some of the whitest beaches on the entire planet. Sand so fine and bright, it almost hurts to look at, washed by water in shades of turquoise you'd swear were edited. Just down the road, Cape Le Grand National Park hides beaches where you can walk for an hour and meet more kangaroos than people. Yes, actual kangaroos, lounging right there on the sand like they own the place. Imagine this as your everyday life. Morning coffee with no line, an after-work swim at a beach with not a single towel in sight. Star-filled night skies with zero light pollution. This isn't a holiday. For the people who live here, it's just Tuesday. Now here's the honest part. Esperance works because it has a real economy. Farming, fishing, and a busy working port, which means actual jobs and services exist all year round, not just in summer. That's rarer than you'd think for a town this peaceful. So here's your practical tip. If you're thinking of making the move, connect with the local farming and fishing community early. In remote towns like this, your network isn't a luxury, it's your lifeline. The people are the support system. One town down, 11 more crowd-free escapes to go, and trust me, they only get more surprising from here. So, which one is calling your name? From the pearl white, untouched beaches of Esperance, to the tiny volcanic village of Stanley with barely 600 souls, all the way to the underground homes of Coober Pedy, baking in the outback sun. Australia is absolutely bursting with places where you can finally exhale, slow right down, and reclaim your space. Places where you'll never fight for parking, never line up for coffee, and never feel like just another face crushed into a crowd. But here's the one powerful truth that ties every single one of these 12 towns together, and it's worth remembering before you pack a single box. The quiet is a trade. You're swapping traffic, noise, and chaos for distance, peace, and a little more self-sufficiency. You give up some convenience, and in return, you get your life back. And for the right person, that's the best deal they'll ever make. So be honest with yourself. How much quiet do you really want? Because somewhere on this list, whether it's a tropical paradise, an alpine escape, a creative riverside village, or a town carved into the desert, there's a place that fits the life you've been quietly dreaming about. If this video gave you even a little spark of, maybe I really could do this, go ahead and smash that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you know. Subscribe so you never miss our deep dives on hidden Aussie gems. And I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these 12 towns would you move to tomorrow? I read every single one, and if you want more, check out our video on Australia's most affordable hidden towns. It's right there on your screen now. Your sea change might be closer than you ever imagined. I'll see you in the next one.